Afeez Hassan with Global News. First, the headlines. Federal government urges South Africa to take concrete action against attacks on Nigerians. Chad announces plans to withdraw from International Criminal Court. And Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu heads to US for first Trump meeting since Iran war. Now the news in full. The federal government has condemned the recurring xenophobic attacks on Nigerians and other African nationals in South Africa, calling on the South African government to take urgent action to stop the violence. President Bola Tinubu declined to personally receive a special envoy from South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. President Bola Tinubu declined to personally receive a special envoy from South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa. Instead, he directed the delegation, led by South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, to meet with the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Shola Enikan-Olaye. Speaking after the meeting in Abuja, Ambassador Enikan-Olaye said, "The talks focus on finding lasting solutions to the attacks. He stressed that the strong diplomatic ties between Nigeria and South Africa should not be overshadowed by violence against African migrants. He also reminded South Africa of Nigeria's historic support during the anti-apartheid struggle and called for stronger efforts to protect Nigerians and their businesses." The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has shut down 3 alcohol manufacturing companies in Ota, Ogun State, for allegedly violating the federal government's ban on producing alcoholic drinks in sachet and PET bottles. The enforcement operation was led by the Assistant Director of NAFDAC's Investigation and Enforcement Directorate, Kunle Ojo. According to the agency, inspectors found one factory producing sachet alcohol and storing large quantities of PET bottles. During the follow-up visit, officials alleged that the company secretly removed products that had been placed under regulatory enforcement. NAFDAC also said the second company was caught allegedly continuing the production of sachet alcoholic beverages despite the ban, prompting the immediate sealing of the premises. The agency says investigations are ongoing as it steps up enforcement of the government's directive. Chad has announced it is beginning the process of withdrawing from the International Criminal Court, joining Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Venezuela. In a statement, the government said the ICC's work is limited and uneven, accusing the Hague-based court of focusing mainly on African countries. The decision comes after Chad faces allegations of involvement in the conflict in neighboring Sudan. Chad's foreign minister dismissed claims that the United States pressured the country to leave the court, saying the withdrawal reflects Chad's view that it is no longer aligned with how the ICC operates. The ICC prosecutes individuals accused of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Earlier this morning, the United States also intensified its criticism of the court, calling it a threat to U.S. sovereignty. Japan has issued a tsunami alert after a powerful 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck the southwestern island of Kyushu on Tuesday. The quake, which hit at about 4:27 p.m. local time, registered the highest level 7 on Japan's seismic intensive scale. Authorities warned of tsunami waves of up to 1 meter. The earthquake knocked out electricity to around 45,000 homes and businesses in Kumamoto. However, officials say there were no abnormalities at nearby nuclear power plants, and 3 operating reactors remain unaffected. Residents have been urged to stay away from the coast and follow evacuation instructions as authorities continue to monitor the situation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House today. It is the first face-to-face talk since the Iran war began. The meeting is expected to focus on the conflict between the United States and Iran, as Washington says it wants to keep the door open for negotiations. Despite recent public disagreement, both leaders have sought to present a united front. Netanyahu has described their differences as tactical disagreement. The two leaders are also expected to discuss the implementation of the recent US-backed Israel-Lebanon agreement, as well as the ongoing humanitarian crisis and reconstruction efforts in Gaza, where conditions remain severe amid continued military operations. A bit of sport. The Nigeria Football Federation and Canadian club AFC Toronto have condemned the racist abuse directed at Super Falcons midfielder Esther Okoronkwo on social media. The abuse followed an incident during Nigeria's stay in Morocco for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, where hotel workers stole cash belonging to the player. Moroccan authorities arrested the suspect, recovered the stolen money, and sentenced the offender to 6 months in prison. Despite the swift response, Okoronkwo was targeted online with racist comments and monkey emojis. Both the Nigeria Football Federation and AFC Toronto have strongly denounced the abuse and expressed support for the Super Falcons star. To end global news, a recap of the major headlines. The federal government has condemned the recurring xenophobic attacks on Nigerians and other African nationals in South Africa, calling on the South African government to take urgent action to stop the violence. We told you that Chad has announced its decision to withdraw from the International Criminal Court, joining Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Venezuela. Lastly, you heard Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House today. It is the first face-to-face talk since the Iran war began. That was Global News. It was edited by Oluwafunke Israel. I am Afeez Hassan. Many thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for news nationwide at 6 o'clock. Good afternoon.